If you really want to join in and learn about the cycling classic Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, then you should definitely stay here. Because for decades, Omloop has marked the official start of the Flemish Spring Classics, the moment when the cobblestones awaken, the wind howls through the fields, and the strongest riders test their legs against the relentless hills of the Flemish Ardennes. It's also the first major European World Tour race of the year, setting the tone for the entire season. Here's a quick glimpse of what's coming your way, but trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end. Number 10. We've got a sneak peek at what to expect in 2025, but that's just the warm-up. Because number 4? Oh, that's the most chaotic sprint you'll ever witness, pure madness on two wheels. And just wait until you see number 5. It's so outrageous that it's almost impossible to believe it actually happened. But the real shocker? Number 8. A heartbreaking fall from grace as a world-famous cycling star faces dramatic relegation. You can't miss this. Here we go, hit the road. Starting with number 1. On Sunday the 25th of March 1945, the very first Omloop van Vlaanderen, as the race was then called, is held. Further away in Europe, the Second World War is still raging, and during the race, military traffic must have priority over the cyclists. There are 83 participants. The first winner, Jan Bogaerts, is the youngest ever to date, 20 years and 65 days. Johan Museeuw was the oldest winner to date in 2003 at the age of 37 years and 139 days. Let's dive into a quick preview for this year. Based on the UCI World Ranking, these are the 5 strongest participants: Jasper Philipsen, Biniam Girmay, Wout van Aert, Matteo Jorgensen and Arnaud Delis. Tom Pidcock is number 6, and we also want to mention him because of his good results at the start of this season. But former winners Jasper Stuyven and Jan Tratnik should definitely be kept an eye on. Other world-class riders such as Mathieu van der Poel, Remco Evenepoel, Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard and Primož Roglič are not participating. They have never done so before. The other side of the coin is that former top rider Tom Boonen participated 15 times in the past without ever winning. Mads Pedersen is currently on 7 participations without a victory. The Dane will not be there in 2025. Wout van Aert is at the start for the 6th time. He won in 2022. His 4 other results are 32nd, 13th, 11th and last year 3rd. And now, on to number 2, an addition so fast it rewrote the history books. Just last year, in 2024, Jan Tratnik delivered a performance that shattered a record that had stood untouched since 1975. Over a grueling 202.2 kilometers, Tratnik and the peloton averaged an astonishing 44.69 kilometers per hour, leaving the legendary 1975 edition, with its 43.36 kilometers per hour average over 198 kilometers, in the dust. Imagine flying across the cobblestones and hills of the Flemish Ardennes at that speed, pure madness. But records are made to be broken, or are they? Now, hold on tight because we've arrived at number 3, and this one is straight out of cycling folklore. The year? 1969. The stage? The brutal roads of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. And the hero? A 21-year-old rookie who shocked the world by winning the race on his very first ride in the professional peloton. That young sensation was none other than Roger de Vlamingh, a name that would soon be etched in cycling history. But this victory was just the beginning. De Vlamingh went on to conquer all 5 cycling monuments, a feat so rare that only 3 riders in history have ever achieved it. In Flanders, his name is spoken with reverence, a living legend whose journey began right here, on the cobbled roads of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. And now, buckle up for number 4, the most chaotic sprint this race has ever seen. The year was 1994, and the finish line became a battlefield. Charging toward victory, Wilfred Nelissen found himself locked in a fierce clash with none other than the fearless Jamaluddin Abdujaparov, a man known for his wild, no-holds-barred sprinting style. What happened next? Pure madness. As they thundered down the final stretch, handlebars tangled, bodies collided, and Nelissen had to physically shove his rival aside just to break free. Yet somehow, against all odds, they stayed upright, with Nelissen surging to victory. But the drama didn't end there. Abdujaparov, who initially crossed the line in 3rd, was swiftly disqualified for dangerous riding. It was a sprint so wild, so unpredictable, that fans still talk about it to this day. And trust me, you've got to see the footage to believe it. Number 5 takes us back to 1996, a moment so bizarre that it's almost impossible to imagine today. Picture this. The starting line of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad buzzing with tension, not because of the brutal cobblestones or the biting Flemish wind, but because the riders were on the verge of a strike. The reason? A brand new rule requiring the use of the pot helmet, a clunky, uncomfortable lid that was anything but aerodynamic. Outraged, the peloton threatened to boycott the race altogether, but the organizers stood their ground, refusing to back down. And after a heated standoff, the riders had no choice but to line up, helmets and all. Looking back, it's hard to believe that wearing helmets was ever up for debate, but on that day, cycling history took a turn that would change the sport forever. And now, number 6. A ride so bold, so relentless, that it carved Philippe Gilbert's name into the history books. The year? 2008. With 49 kilometers still to go, most riders would have waited, played it safe, and saved their legs for the final sprint. But not Gilbert. No, he attacked with the confidence of a man destined for greatness. Charging through the Flemish Ardennes alone, he battled the wind, the cobblestones, and the chasing peloton that could only watch as he disappeared into the distance. By the time he crossed the finish line, his lead was nearly a full minute. And the craziest part? This wasn't even his first solo triumph. Just 2 years earlier, Gilbert had already left the competition in the dust, riding solo to his first Omloop victory. Little did anyone know, the man who conquered these roads would later wear the rainbow jersey as world champion in 2012. But on that day in 2008, he wasn't just racing. He was making history with the longest solo victory this race has ever seen. Number 7 takes place in the year 2010. For the first time in the then 65-year history, there is no Belgian in the top 3. With Fletcher, Haussler and Ferrar, a Spaniard, a German-Australian and an American are on the podium. In the meantime, the race has had 77 editions, 57 of which have been won by a Belgian. It must be said that in the last 10 years, the victory has only gone to a Belgian 4 times. Wout van Aert in 2022 and Jasper Stuyven in 2020 were the last 2. Greg van Avermaet won twice in a row in 2016 and 2017. For number 8, we're turning back the clock, way back, to a moment in 1948 that still echoes through cycling history. Fans cheered, rivals faded, and it seemed nothing could stop the Campionissimo Fausto Coppi from claiming glory. But then, controversy struck. Along the way, Coppi made a crucial wheel change, but not with a teammate. Instead, he accepted help from Belgium's René Walschot, an act strictly forbidden by the rules. And just when it seemed Coppi had conquered the day, the hammer fell, disqualified from first place. His name was erased from the winners list, replaced by Belgian rider Sylvain Grisal. A moment of triumph turned into one of cycling's most dramatic downfalls, proof that even legends aren't above the rules. But one thing's for sure. This twist of fate only added to the mystique of Fausto Coppi, who never won a road race in Flanders. And now, number 9, an edition packed with drama, heartbreak, and one of the greatest tactical shocks in cycling history. The year? 2015. With the finish line approaching, 4 riders surged ahead, locked in a fierce battle for victory. On one side, a powerhouse trio from Quick-Step, featuring none other than the legendary Tom Boonen. On the other, a lone Brit from Team Sky, Ian Stannard. Outnumbered 3-1. But what happened next? Stannard outsmarted every single Quick-Step rider, leaving them stunned in his wake. Boonen, Terpstra, and Vandenberg could only watch as the Brit crossed the line in triumph, turning what should have been Quick-Step's race into a story of what could have been. And for Boonen, Omloop Het Nieuwsblad would remain the only Flemish spring classic he would never conquer. A bitter twist of fate in a career full of glory, proof that in cycling, victory is never guaranteed until you've crossed that line. And to end on number 10, we have a little bit of history and records in store. The famous Kapelmuur of Gerorsbergen and Bosberg were used for the first time in competition in this race in 1950. Since 2018, these climbs from the old Tour of Flanders have formed the finale of this race. The first edition of the Omloop was organized in 1945 under the name Omloop van Vlaanderen. Because the name Omloop van Vlaanderen was too similar to that of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the race was renamed Omloop Het Volk in 1947, after the organizing newspaper. The newspaper Het Volk was taken over by Het Nieuwsblad in 2008, and that is why the name changed again. Since 2006, there has also been a women's edition. There are 3 record winners with 3 victories. Ernest Sterks in the 50s, Joseph Bruyère in the 70s and his last victory in 1980. And finally Peter van Petegem in 1997, 1998 and 2002. All 3 Belgians. As said before, the Belgians count 57 wins in 77 editions. In the women's race, the Netherlands has won 12 times in 21 editions. 4 riders have 2 victories, including Annemiek van Vleuten and Anna van der Breggen. So now you are all caught up on Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. Enjoy the 2025 race this Saturday and thanks for watching. Stay tuned at Cycling for Cycling.stats.